Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 299. Without any delay, start explanation. The reason I underestimated Lishi was because I knew that even if he had newfound abilities, it would be related to some kind of destructive power. I, on the other hand, have the ability to resist the destructive power. I'd intentionally revealed the flaw to incite your outbursts. In reality, all of you can't possibly win from the very beginning. However, I never expected any of you to be capable of compelling me to do this. When he collaborated with the Gale Saber Demon Saima Jinkai, the Shrek 6 monsters could not possibly win. Saima Jinchi's ninth soul skill allowed him to transform into the real Dragon Clan's power saber to reveal his strength. Even though he was only capable of displaying a small portion of the effect produced by the Dragon Clan's power saber, it was more than enough to deal with the 6 monsters. Tang Wulin's trump card was truly powerful, such that he could immediately end the battle regardless of when he chose to play the trump card. This was the disparity between the two sides. The Shrek 6 monsters never stood a chance from the very beginning. Yu Jingyu spoke with a furious expression. This is truly a case of, when someone reaches a certain level of success, he or she will face even greater challenges. We refuse to accept this as the final result. Why don't you fight alone against the 6 of us if you can? Where's your shame? Tang Wulin darted him a look of contempt, but his smiling eyes gave him away. His comrade's growth was faster than he had ever imagined. Moreover, he believed everyone was still holding back slightly during the battle earlier. The 6 monsters were reserving their energies to fight Aruhang and Saima Jinkai later. Just like how Yu Jingyu had yet to launch his holy fusion skill, Tang Wulin believed that Yi Xinglan and Yuan Yehui had their hidden techniques too. Anyway, Tang Wulin was most surprised at Xu Xiaoyon's growth. She displayed her control ability to perfection. If not for his defense that comprised of the dragon air, the domineering golden dragon body, and the golden dragon body, Aruhang and Saima Jinkai, who were both titled Duluos, would have difficulty holding back the 6 monsters. In spite of Aruhang's shocking defense, one outburst from the 6 monsters under Xiaoyon's control could possibly finish off 1 or even 2 of Tang Wulin's team members. After all, it was just a sparring session. No one would possibly hurt the others for real. As it was, the result of the competition would have been difficult to predict. Unless Tang Wulin used an indomitable technique like the Dragon Clan's power saber as soon as he made the first move, it would have been difficult for the 3 of them to defeat the 6 monsters. No one was happier than Tang Wulin, who learned about the exceptional growth of his comrades. There was only excitement in his heart at present. Long Yeyue looked toward Tang Wulin with a peculiar gaze before she nodded in secret. Initially, she had planned to join Tang Wulin on the trip to the Star Luo Empire and the Do Spirit Empire. Now, however, she decided to allow these eyes to spread their wings and soar in the skies after witnessing the battle earlier. When would their wings harden if they remained in the protection of her feathered wings? On the other hand, it was still difficult to tell the extent of their abilities after they became 3-word battle armor masters with their elevated cultivation bases. Just like today, Tang Wulin's fight against the 6 monsters would have been easier if he was cladded in his 2-word battle armor. Just as Yu Jingyu said, when someone reaches a certain level of success, he or she will face even greater challenges. In the end, the victory belonged to Tang Wulin, judging by his abilities and state of mind. His reputation as the leader of the Shrek 7 monsters was not without its merits. She would like to see how long it would take him to catch up to the ranks of the previous generations of the Sea Gods Pavilion Masters. By then, she would finally be able to take a breather. Long Yeyue was actually surprised to detect a wisp of aura vaguely when Tang Wulin used the Dragon Clan's power weapon. It seemed helpful in triggering her advancement to the rank of godhood. As a demigod, although she could not detect the divine realm at present, any minor elevation would allow her to live much longer beyond her present life. Both Aruhang and Saima Jinkai arrived at Tang Wulin's side. As they looked at Tang Wulin's comrades, they were in awe of these youths. They could not help gasping in admiration, for the younger generation had surpassed the older. They did a self-assessment and concluded that they did not have such abilities when they were at the age of the current Shrek 7 monsters. Both of them were especially interested in Xu Xiaoyon because they were scurrying around to avoid being controlled by Xu Xiaoyon. Even with her battle armor's amplification, Xu Xiaoyan was still a soul sage after all and had not acquired her 8th and 9th soul skill. They had felt incapable of withstanding her control. The Shrek 7 monsters had a fighting capacity that defied the heavens with such a core control-type soul master on their side. Any titled Dolor would need to seriously consider the consequences before engaging them in a fight. Their battle armors had managed to reduce the disparity between themselves and the high-ranking soul masters. Aruhang and Sima Jinkai could not imagine the extent of the outbursts of these 7 people when they achieved the rank of a titled Dolor. The Shrek Academy that seemed impossible to rebuild initially now stood a chance with the existence of this group, especially with Elder Long assuming command in person. "I'm going back to cultivate," said Yi Xinglan, who was in a morose mood before she turned around and left. Xu Lixi remained smiling in a good-natured manner. Yet, he turned around to follow Yi Xinglan without the slightest hesitation. Skysea spoke with a sad and angered look. "Actually, I've yet to display my full abilities today. Big brother, I don't mean to tell you this. If not because we were worried that we might accidentally hurt you, it's possible that you may not have won. My time-space dragon is very impressive, you see." Tang Wulin could not help laughing. "So, shall we have a one-on-one then?" "No. Yuanen, let's go cultivate." He took Yuanen Yehue's hand as he spoke. Yuanen Yehue glared at him but did not attempt to struggle free. Xu Xiaoyan was helped up from the ground by Yu Jingyu. "Big brother, we're leaving too. We shall work hard to catch up to you. So, you better work hard too." "Oh right, when are you going to forge my 3-word battle armor? Why don't we fight 3 against 6 the next time? All 6 of us will wear battle armors but not the 3 of you. How about it? Let's go quick." Tang Wulin watched as his comrades left in succession to contemplate on today's battle. At the same time he felt warm and fuzzy in his heart. He felt a little lost too. All of them had their lovers. What about himself? Where was his lover? Today's battle carried immense significance for the Shrek 7 monsters. Most importantly, they understood clearly their comrade's level of elevation after the battle. If not for his terrifying martial soul fusion skill known as the Dragon Clan's Power Saber, Tang Wulin's team might not have been able to defeat the Shrek 6 monsters. Furthermore, the Shrek 6 monsters' cooperation was lacking as a result of the compatibility in their newfound skills. The critical issue with poor cooperation was reflected in the assault-type soul masters. Yuanen Yehue, Yi Xinglan, and Yu Jingyu's attacking abilities and ranges were raised correspondingly with the elevation of their cultivation bases. Consequently, mutual interference was inevitable during the attacks. Tang Wulin stood to gain when his comrades' attacks interfered with one another. In order to prevent the occurrence of this problem, they had no choice but to take turns in launching their attacks during the battle. Although their attacks were still powerful, akin to a gale and storm, they could not take advantage of their overlapping dominance. Otherwise, Tang Wulin would not be able to withstand for such a long time in the battle of 1 against 3. On the other hand, Tang Wulin was amazed at Xu Xiaoyan and Xu Lixi too. Xu Xiaoyan's control ability was exemplary, such that Aruhan and Sima Jinkai were scuttling to avoid being controlled by her. She had not displayed her true fighting capacity during the second round of the battle. Otherwise, Tang Wulin's group of 3 would not be in such advantageous positions. Xu Lixi surprised Tang Wulin as well. The utilization of his destructive power with the bamboo steamer martial soul avatar was rather comedic but was, in reality, filled with power. The food-type soul master actually managed to stop 2 great powerhouses in a short time to create opportunities for his fellow comrades. Those purple-black explosive destruction buns of his could be described as innovative. They were just like bombs but with extraordinary effects. Had Tang Wulin been without his life seed support, he would have lost his fighting capacity after being slapped by Xu Lixi. Fortunately, they were comrades. Xu Lixi did not exert his full force when he struck Tang Wulin. Afterward, Tang Wulin pondered over the changes in Yi Xinglan and Xu Lixi. He came to realize they had consumed the Star Luo Holy Pearl and the Origin Energy Immortal Grass when they were in the Ice-Fire Polarized Eyes. Those were top-grade heaven and earth treasures. It was not only effective at elevating their soul powers but also caused major transformations to their foundations and martial souls. While Tang Wulin was startled at his comrade's abilities, his comrades were equally overwhelmed by his current abilities. His blood-soul fusion skill enabled him to resist everyone's attacks without being cladded in battle armor. It also enhanced his control over the battle situation together with his powerful attack and defense abilities, the Dragon Might and the Dragon Air. He was fighting against 6 people by himself most of the time. It truly shocked the 6 monsters so much so they referred to him as a monster. There was no doubt that ever since the Shrek 7 monsters returned from their military enlistment, everyone had advanced in both their mentalities and capabilities. Even the light dark Doluo Long Yue was gasping in admiration at the overall ability of the entire squadron. In Long Yue's point of view, even though not everyone from this generation of Shrek 7 monsters would necessarily become a limit Doluo, they definitely had the ability to become full-word battle armor masters. If Shrek Academy had 7 full-word battle armor masters, it would naturally be less difficult to revive the academy in the future. The secret rebuilding of Shrek Academy entered a quiet period in the following days. Wu Sidua and the rest of her group were already sent away, with Wu Zhongkong taking them to the Demon Island personally. Tang Wulin and his group of 7 could only sympathize with the trials ahead of them. The people joining this trip included some inner court disciples that had not been there before. There was no doubt that the Demon Island would become much more crowded in the following days for a long period of time. Meanwhile, Tang Wulin's side was also undertaking intense preparation. The amorous Doluo Zongxin vanished for a very long period of time for some unknown reason. The inner and outer court disciples of Shrek spent every day cultivating painstakingly. In Wu Zhangkong's absence, the position of the outer court's teacher landed in the hands of husband and wife duo, Lan Muzi and Tang Yinmeng. The Tang sect's resources were also being transferred to them through numerous methods. According to Tang Wulin and Elder Long's discussion, only the students capable of achieving inner court disciple standards were allowed to come over to the Tang sect headquarters. The situation left them no choice. The process of rebuilding Shrek had just begun, so they would need to maintain secrecy as much as possible in order to prevent all sorts of unnecessary troubles. The 7 monsters began their joint training, but now, their opponent was not a Ruheng nor Sima Jinkai, but the light dark Doluo Long Yue. The monsters felt as if they had returned to their days on the Demon Island, but they could only truly understand the power of the foes they would face when they were fighting against a genuine limit Doluo. They were advancing in the continuous training, and they had also begun making their 3-word battle armors. According to Tang Wulin's plan, he was supposed to be making his own mecha. However, he gave up on that in the end due to the lack of time. Instead, he would only forge all the metals needed for the mecha first. He had a full schedule every day where he spent mornings forging, afternoons engaging in actual battles and nights communicating with the numerous great mecha-making masters of the Tang sect. Tang Wulin had become even more aware of the depth of the Tang sect's inner secrets by conversing with the forces in their underground world. There was a total of 16 rank 9 mecha designers and 21 rank 9 mecha makers forging mechas for the Tang sect. Tang Wulin was doubtful that even the Federation had such a lineup. Yes, Tang Wulin was not just making his own mecha, as the other 6 monsters were also included. Additionally, there were also Sima Jinkai and a Ruheng. Every one of them was about to own a meticulously made unit of an advanced Tang sect-produced black mecha of the highest grade. The reason why it would be black instead of red was the metal's quality was not of that standard. Theoretically, red mechas could be made with soul-forged metal, but if a mecha's core parts were not made of heavenly refined metals, it did not qualify as divine mecha according to the strictest appraisal criteria. This was also the reason why there were so few divine mechas on the continent. Even so, there were different ranks among black mechas as well. Without a doubt, the Tang sect was making black mechas of the highest rank for Tang Wulin and his group of 9. On the other hand, the process to achieve such a feat required a great deal of communication. Each individual was suited to a different type of mecha. The purpose of a top-grade mecha was to allow Soul Master to utilize his or her fighting capacity to the greatest extent, so the mecha would have to be perfectly compatible with the Soul Master's body, just like an extension of their own physical form. Thus, Tang Wulin put great effort into creating even more soul-forged metals for himself before making his mecha in order to fulfill the necessary requirements. On the other hand, he was also communicating with the numerous elite mecha designers and mecha makers together with his companions continuously. This would allow the great masters to understand their needs and abilities in order to design mechas that were tailor-made for them. The rest of the group were already spending their mornings learning about operating mechas, following their schedule. Sima Jinkai and Aruhang were the least prepared for this. They had always used their bodies as their main weapons in combat and believed that soul masters would forever be superiority to mecha masters. They found themselves slightly unwilling to own mechas, but they finally agreed after much persuasion from Tang Wulin. However, Tang Wulin soon realized that powerful soul masters may not necessarily be so naturally talented when controlling mechas. Gale Saber Demon Sima Jinkai was the clumsiest when it came to this. He took a relatively long period of time to master coordination in operating mecha despite his 9-ring title Doluor cultivation base. On the other hand, Aruhang was just the opposite of Sima Jinkai. Due to the body Doluor's powerful exercise control over his body, he adapted swiftly to the process and soon enjoyed the feeling of operating mechas. The sense of strength from a mecha was different from one's body. Thus, he had a very simple requirement for his mecha, which was that it had to be incredibly strong. Tang Wulin spent every day bustling about from dawn to dusk. When he could finally cross his legs and rest in his room, he could enter a meditative state almost instantly. One could only imagine how exhausting his day was given how lethargic he became despite his physical abilities. He was always the hardest working for he had too many things to do. The initial phase of battle armor making was just as described by Tang Wulin earlier. Yi Xinglan and Yuan and Yehue's battle armors were the first to be made. They were in charge of doing it for themselves, so Tang Wulin would prioritize supplying them with soul-forged metals first. The 7 monsters were filled with anticipation for their 3-word battle armor, but this was genuinely not something that could be accomplished in one stroke. They would still need a rather long period of time to complete it. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. East Sea City, the city by the sea, remained as quiet as usual. As one of the biggest cities in East Sea, it had always been an important centralized area for supplies sourced from the ocean. On the other hand, Skysea City, not far away from East Sea City, was the biggest port on the entire continent. The most powerful naval forces, the East Sea Fleet, were stationed there as well. Ever since the Hawk faction gained dominance in the Parliament, the East Sea Fleet's maneuvers had become more frequent. Even the ordinary public could often see gigantic warships cleaving through the waves in the distance. They could even hear waves of booming sounds indistinctly on certain occasions. In East Sea City's Seoul train station, a group of 9 people walked onto the platform in great strides. They stopped in front of the guest car boarding platform as they awaited the arrival of Seoul train. The man walking in front was a youth with refined features. His body was slim and tall while his complexion was warm and glistened like jade. He appeared to be a gentle and delicate person. The people by his side were apparently ordinary youths. Judging by their attire, they appeared to be students from a prestigious academy. Under close inspection, one would discover that Skysea Academy's hidden pattern was sewn into their matching uniforms. The tall youth with a large physique standing next to the leader was occasionally touching his head and pulled at his clogs, mumbling, "It's really uncomfortable." He had long hair that draped across both of his cheeks to conceal his naturally sharp face. The burly youth on his other side sniggered. "Serves you right. Whose fault is it that you don't have any hair?" The long-haired youth glared at him. "How dare you? Look at that face of yours. You're just like a peeled chicken egg with your beard shaved. You look like you want to be a gigolo. F***CK. Who are you calling a gigolo?" "Enough, both of you," said the lead youth in an unpleasant tone. Both of them gave out a huff simultaneously and turned their heads away. The rest of the people by their sides could not help smiling. These 2 youths never stopped quarreling anyway. "Why are we taking a Seoul train? It would be much better if we drove straight there." The long-haired youth loosened the muscles on his thick, strong neck. The leading youth spoke. The surrounding areas of Skysea City have been engaging in military maneuvers, so it's very troublesome to enter the city, especially by car. By using the train, we can arrive straight at the center of Skysea City, then someone will come and coordinate with us. As he spoke, he could not help feeling disappointed. The reason he had passed by East Sea City on his way to Skysea City was so that he could revisit this place which he had missed for so long. This was where he had studied and lived. In other words, this was his starting point. Back then, he had gotten to know his companions here and subsequently, revisiting the place, East Sea City seemed to have remained the same. It appeared that the dozen years that passed had not managed to alter it even slightly. However, in his heart, everything had changed. He tried hard to fight back the urge to run home. "Father, Mother, I'll bring you back." The Soul train arrived with a whistle, and the people on the platform began to board. The VIP seats were indeed comfortable. Everyone had their own spacious area, and various food and drink was available for them to choose. They got on the train and the leading youth sat in front. His express also changed from disappointed to watchful. It was about to start. The Hawk faction had finally gained an absolute majority in the parliament. The act of deploying soldiers was like an arrow on a bowstring. Expeditions were undertaken amid a din of drums and gongs. That was also the reason why security in Skysea City had been so tight these days. Every single vehicle that went into or out of the city had to undergo a strict and thorough examination. This might be due to the trauma created by the bombing of Shrek Academy using fixed Soul ammunitions. The Soul train arrived at Skysea City Station. When the 9 of them disembarked, the first thing they had to face was the security checks. Although it was not as strict as the vehicle checks, their bodies would still have to be scanned with specialized equipment. They could only say they had truly entered Skysea City after passing the scans without incident. The young man who led the pack in front was Tang Wulin. The tall, muscular youth with long hair who walked alongside him was undoubtedly a Ruhang. His bald head was too eye-catching. That was why Tang Wulin had put a wig on him while he disguised him. It had the necessary effect. At least, it softened his features a lot. Sima Jinch's disguise was the simplest. He simply shaved his beard and trimmed his brows. This already made him look gentler. Without all that, he looked very different. This was also the reason why Ruhang said that he resembled a toy boy. The others all had simple makeup on to conceal their outstanding looks. Because of their families, the first country that they chose to go to was Do Spirit. The Do Spirit Empire was much weaker compared to the Star Luo Empire. It was in greater need of the Tang sect's reinforcements, so it was more appropriate for them to head there first. Tang Wulin had been itching to try this for a long time. If he could reach an agreement with the Spirit Do Empire, it would be much easier for him to search for his parents within its boundaries. Which system are you? Tang Wulin was leading his companions out of the station when they suddenly heard a crisp voice. The speaker was blocking their way. Tang Wulin stopped in his tracks. What he saw was a beautiful smile. After just a moment's glance, he understood why she was hindering them. It was a young girl who looked to be about 18 or 19 years of age. She was also wearing Skysea Academy's uniform, just like what they were wearing. The young girl was beautiful. She had big eyes and curved brows. She appeared to be full of the vigor of youth. Skysea Academy's uniform was a type of formal dress. Although Tang Wulin had put on makeup, he could not alter his physique. He carried a simple bag in his right hand which contained a few changes of clothes. When he slung it over his shoulder and stood there with his slender build in a fitted uniform, it was very easy for him to attract the eyes of the girls. The reason he carried a bag was to conceal his identity better. If he had boarded the Soul train empty-handed, he would stand out even more. Where would you find a student without a bag? Tang Wulin had a strange look on his face. They had only worn Skysea Academy's uniform to conceal their identities. They had never expected that they would actually run into a Skysea Academy student here. Skysea Academy was the largest academy in Skysea City. It had students of different ages. It also had Soul Master and Mecha branches. It was the most powerful academy on the eastern side of the Dolor continent. "We're from the Soul Master branch," replied Tang Wulin dryly. His expression was slightly cold, and he seemed to keep everybody at arm's length. He did his best to convey the message, "Get lost and don't bother me." He did not want to spend too much time on this young girl. However, no matter how hard he tried to conceal himself, he did not understand a young girl's heart. When she saw his debonair looks, the girl blinked. "Judging by your appearance, you must be a senior." "I'm a new student in Skysea, and I'm also from the Soul Master branch." "Senior, I don't know my way around here, so can you take me to the academy?" Tang Wulin could not help feeling speechless. The others were also throwing them strange looks. What exactly was going on here? "I'm sorry, but I don't have time. Please figure it out yourself." After he had finished, Tang Wulin turned around and left. The others followed naturally behind him, walking past the girl. The young girl stood where she was. She quickly pouted her red lips. What kind of person is this? Am I really that unlikable? However, that icy look of his is really cool. Since we're both in the Soul Master branch, we'll definitely meet each other sooner or later. Humph. "Captain, I never thought I'd see you being forced to admit defeat," said Xu Xiaoyan with a snicker. Skysea sighed. "Comparisons are odious. Why are you still able to attract the ladies even with this disguise on? Who are you trying to attract?" Yuan and Yehua looked at him with calm eyes. Skysea shivered. "No one. I'll only attract you for the rest of my life. Ever since I saw what I shouldn't see, my heart and soul have been taken prisoner by what I shouldn't have seen. Do you have a death wish?" She was bursting with murderous intent. Tang Wulin felt helpless as well. He was unsure if his rudeness would distress the young girl. However, he truly had no intention of wasting his time. At that point, the soul communicator on his wrist rang. Tang Wulin picked up the call and Long Yushua's voice came from the other end. "Captain, things aren't looking too good. We don't know why, but Skysea City has suddenly increased the intensity of their checks, especially at their transportation hubs. The security checks there were greatly strengthened. They installed new soul power detecting units. All soul masters with 3 rings and above will have to go through detailed identity checks. You guys must be there already, so please be careful when you exit." Tang Wulin had a slight frown. What's this? Could it be that the Tang sect's actions have been found out? Soul power detecting units. This was troublesome. The Federation's latest soul power detecting device was very advanced. It could detect minute changes in soul power. Although Tang Wulin could conceal his soul power fluctuations with his bloodline power, it would be somewhat difficult for the others to do the same. Although they had aliases, their cultivation bases were too strong. If any one of them were found out to have a cultivation base of greater than 7 rings, they would most likely run into unnecessary trouble. Their greatest advantage for the time being was that news of Shrek Academy's rebuilding had not leaked out yet. Everything was still done in secret. "We'll cover you at the exit. If anything happens, we'll take the back," came Long Yushua's voice again. "There's no need to be too worried. I'll handle this." With that, Tang Wulin ended the call. On the other side, Long Yushua put down her soul communicator. An upset look flashed across her face. His words were always so comforting, and they seemed to be able to influence the people around him more and more. A simple "I'll handle this" had made her feel as if he could take care of everything. Was this what they called charisma? What she did not know was that when a soul master's spiritual cultivation base had reached spirit domain, he would naturally release some minute spiritual fluctuations which would influence his surroundings. He would also appear more charismatic as well. "Captain, what's wrong?" asked Yi Xinglan. Tang Wulin replied, "They have soul power detectors. Wait for me here." He quickly turned around and walked in the direction from where they came. The Skysea Academy young girl was stomping her feet at the spot where they met. She was ready to walk out of the station when she suddenly saw Tang Wulin coming back. "Let's go. I'll take you to the academy," Tang Wulin walked up to her and spoke dryly. When she saw his tall, well-built figure, the young girl's beautiful face could not keep from blushing. Her heart was beating faster despite herself. "Ah, senior, my name's Li Na. What's your name?" "I'm Gu. Tang Wulin had a helpless expression. "You came to Skysea Academy from another city?" "I did. From East Sea City. I was from East Sea Academy. Because of my outstanding results, I got accepted into Skysea Academy's Soul Master branch," said Li Na with a sweet smile. "From East Sea City? What a coincidence. It seems that this girl had been on the same train as us." Tang Wulin nodded and said, "Let's go then. Have you got your identification documents ready? The security has been very strict in Skysea City lately. Everybody has to undergo strict identity checks, especially as soul masters." He used a little of his spiritual power to cover this young lady before him. Shockingly, he noticed that this girl, who looked to be only 18 or 19 years of age, already had a cultivation base that was at the pinnacle of 3 rings. She was only 1 step away from 4 rings. If she was from Shrek Academy, such a level would not mean anything among her peers. However, this was an outstanding achievement in an ordinary place such as this. I did. Li Na quickly took out her identification documents from her own bag. "The academy sent me the uniform, registration manual, and my identification documents. They also reminded me that the security checks here in Skysea City are very strict and told me to bring everything. So, I did. However, this is my first time being away from home alone, and I'm slightly scared. Thankfully you're here to help me, senior. You're a really nice person." When he saw her lively expression, Tang Wulin's glare toned down. "Let's go, then." He brought Li Na back to his companions and walked in front with her. As expected, just as Long Yushua had said, at the exit of the train station, there was a soul power detector. Everyone would have to pass by it and be scanned before they exited the train station. Tang Wulin did a quick take of his surroundings and spread his spiritual power widely. It formed a huge net which probed everything around him. His spiritual cultivation base was already on par with a hyperdolor. He quickly learned of the situation around the train station. There was a mecha squadron on patrol near the station. There were more than 30 federal soldiers at the exit. On the soul power detector's side, there was 1 mecha and 10 soldiers. Once they noticed someone suspicious, they would immediately carry out an examination and verify the person's identity. Tang Wulin made a gesture toward his companions behind him. The others slowed their pace. Tang Wulin and Li Na walked outside. At the same time, Tang Wulin slowly adjusted his soul power shockwave in secret. When the 2 of them went past the soul power detector with the other members of the public, the soul power detector immediately buzzed. The soldiers noticed them right away. They raised their beam assault rifles at them. "You two, come over here." Li Na was startled. "Hey, what are you doing? How can you point guns at us? We're students of Skysea Academy. Just doing a routine check. Please come here to verify your identities." A few soldiers had already walked up to them. Li Na seemed to be shocked. She was slightly flustered as she said, "Senior, what do we do?" "Just let them verify everything." Tang Wulin appeared very calm. He even patted her shoulder to reassure her. The duo followed the soldiers to the soul power detector. The soldiers lowered their beam assault rifles as well. "Please produce your identification documents." Li Na glanced at Tang Wulin. After he had nodded at her, she passed her letter of admittance and identification card to the soldier, and Tang Wulin did the same. Of course, his documents were genuine. With Tang Sect's resources, it was not difficult to produce authentic documents. After a thorough examination, the soldier in charge of handling them said gently, "It's all right, just a routine check. You may leave now." 1 3-ringed and 1 4-ringed. Not bad having such an achievement at your age. Keep up the good work. Li Na glanced at Tang Wulin beside her. She thought to herself, this senior has 4 rings. He's so strong. He doesn't look much older than me either. Tang Wulin nodded toward the soldier. Then, he went out with Li Na. The group kept walking out of the station. At that point, the soldier who was in charge of the soul power detector suddenly exclaimed, "What's this? Why did the screen black out? Is the power disconnected?" The few soldiers quickly checked the detector in a flurry. At this moment, the other 6 monsters, Aruhan and Sima Jinkai, exited the train station. Nothing appeared out of the ordinary. After leaving the station, Li Na said to Tang Wulin beside her, "Senior, I'm so grateful that you were there. I was almost scared to death just now. Why is Skysea City like this nowadays?" The soldiers flashed their weapons before even asking questions. "I heard that a war is brewing. Is it true?" Tang Wulin replied, "Do you hope that it's true?" Li Na shook her head, "Of course not. War is the scariest thing in the world. I've read in the novels that when there's a war, the fields will be filled with corpses. That's so scary." Tang Wulin smiled and said, "I have something else that I have to attend to. We're already in Skysea City. I don't think you'll encounter any problems here. There are taxis there. I'll hail one for you and send you straight to the academy. We'll meet again if we're fated to do so." Shocked, Li Na said, "Senior, aren't you going to the academy with me?" Her tone was filled with disappointment. Tang Wulin replied, "I have something important to attend to. If we bump into each other in the academy sometime after this, I'll treat you to a meal." "All right." She pouted her red lips, obviously unsatisfied. "Senior, I'll take your word on that." Tang Wulin waved at her. He brought his companions to the side. Long Yushue and the members from the Blood Dragon unit who came to fetch them were already waiting for them. As she watched them leave, Li Na strode toward a nearby taxi with a sour look. As she walked, her gaze suddenly became clear. In the depths of her eyes, a faint green color flashed past. 2 titled Duluos and a 7-ringed Soul Saint. Interesting. Are they from the Battle God Hall? Taking the taxi which Long Yushue had booked, Tang Wulin and the others arrived at a middle-class hotel in the center of Skysea City. When Tang Wulin returned to his own room, the amorous Doluo Zongshin was already waiting for him there. "Your Excellency," Tang Wulin saluted Zongshin. Zongshin stood up as well, "Sect Master." Tang Wulin said with a bitter smile, "Even now, I'm still not used to it." Zongshin grinned, revealing his white teeth. If it were not for his slightly weathered gaze, Tang Wulin would have thought that this great person in front of him was his peer. After all, his outer appearance was only that of a 20-year-old. "You'll get used to it. We'll depart in 3 days. The preparation works have been completed already," Zongshin said simply. Tang Wulin said, "Although I don't know how you did it, I truly admire you. I've heard that the port was shut down a long time ago and no commercial vessels are allowed to embark in the direction of the Do Spirit Empire and the Star Luo Empire. All information regarding the 2 continents has been classified. How did you get an ocean liner to head in that direction?" Zongshin smiled. "Tang sect operates in all 3 lands. If it couldn't do something as simple as this, wouldn't we be wasting 10,000 years of development? You'll know when the time comes. This mission is important. I'll leave the Do Spirit and Star Luo empires to you." Tang Wulin nodded. "Don't worry, Your Excellency. I'll give it my all, for Tang sect, for Shrek, and for all the ordinary citizens. We'll avoid this conflict no matter what." Zongshin said, "Everything should proceed according to plan. When you arrive, there'll be people from our side to fetch you." Tang Wulin replied, "Understood. Your Excellency, do you have anything else to say to us?" After a brief moment of silence, Zongshin replied, "One more thing. You're not only sending the weapons we supplied over. At the same time, you must ensure, to the best of your ability, that these weapons won't actually be used on the Federal Army. Otherwise, the Tang sect will be the criminal here. The conflict between the Do Spirit Empire, the Star Luo Empire and the Federation runs deep. If they suddenly had such sophisticated weapons and used them to attack instead of to intimidate, the Federal Army will surely experience a great loss. That's not something that we want to see. The balance in all this is very important. Although the Tang sect has great sway over the Do Spirit and Star Luo continents, it's hard to guarantee that the radicals won't initiate a war anyway. So, you mustn't back down when it's time for you to be strict. You must make them understand. We can support them, but we can destroy them as well. Tang Wulin had a slight frown. That would be a delicate position to maintain. Zongxin continued, due to the attack on our headquarters, we can't spare too many personnel to help you. Only the worshippers from the 2 continents branches can provide you with assistance once you're there. Have a safe journey. We'll give it our all. Tang Wulin nodded solemnly. On this journey, they would be facing the high-ranking officials of 2 countries. They would have to deal with the infighting in the Do Spirit and Star Luo empires. They would probably have to deal with the Spirit Pagoda and the Holy Spirit cult. Their every step was filled with peril. It was not an easy task to arrive at their final goal. The plan was put in place long ago. I won't talk too much about that. Sect Master, if something can't be done, remember, your own safety must take priority. You're the Tang sect's hope, as well as Shrek's. You must take extra care of yourself when fighting the experts from the Holy Spirit cult. The Holy Spirit cult may have infiltrated the 2 empires already. Maybe even the Federal Army. Such spies would certainly be the Holy Spirit cult's veterans. Once the war starts and there is a large number of casualties, that's when they'll make trouble. What you must do is to stop all this from happening. You'll surely face a large number of the Holy Spirit cult's elite. The Holy Spirit cult? When he spewed these 3 words, Tang Wulin's eyes were filled with killing intent. It could be said that he had a blood feud with the Holy Spirit cult. Many Shrek Academy teachers had died in the great explosion caused by the Holy Spirit cult all those years ago. After sending the amorous Doluo off, Tang Wulin organized his thoughts. This time, what he was about to do could very well change the situation on the entire continent. He was slightly excited, but he felt heavy-hearted as well. If he had not experienced what he had gone through, he might not even be qualified to do this. Elder Long, the amorous Doluo and the heartless Doluo had high expectations of him. He had to succeed in this endeavor no matter what. Their roster journeying to the 2 empires this time could also be described as grand. They were the current Shrek 7 monsters, Strength God, the Body Doluo A Ruhan, Gale Saber Demon, the Saber God Doluo Sima Jinkai, all members of the Blood Dragon unit, and Her Excellency the Holy Spirit Doluo. Although Elder Long and the amorous Doluo were not involved in the operation, the Holy Spirit Doluo Yoli had requested that she accompany them on their journey out of concern for their well-being. She was the best recovery system soul master on the continent. With her present, the safety of the entire team was greatly increased. The Holy Spirit Doluo was a rank 98 title Doluo. Even Tang Wulin and the others were unsure just how powerful she was. However, they knew that she was equal to a Hyper Doluo when she fought an evil soul master. If the Holy Spirit cult had not unleashed Godkiller ranked fixed soul ammunition back then, Shrek Academy would not have been that easily crushed, given its strength. Other than experts of high rank, the Tang sect's Doluo Hall also sent a brigade of mechas to accompany them. This was the fighting force which the Tang sect had kept hidden. They were all equipped with superior equipment and the mechas were manned by soul masters with cultivation bases of 5 rings and above. There was a total of 120 mechas in the mecha brigade. This included 20 black mechas and 100 purple mechas. This brigade was formidable. There was a total of 6 mecha army corps in the entire Doluo Federation. Every army corps had 3,000 mechas. An army corps would have 20 black mechas at most. Every mecha army corps was supported by 20,000 men in logistics and various support vehicles. Their equipment was uncountable. The Tang sect's mecha brigade was on par with 1/3 of a mecha army corps combat force. In modern warfare on the Doluo continent, mechas were mainly involved in terrestrial and low-altitude battles. High-altitude battles were the domain of fighter aircraft. Currently, there were 3 Soul fighter aircraft brigades on the Doluo continent. There was a total of about 1,000 Soul fighter aircraft. This was their greatest advantage which they could use to completely suppress the other 2 continents. The Star Luo Empire and the Do Spirit Empire were clearly lagging behind in fighter aircraft and mecha technology. This was especially true in terms of Soul fighter aircraft. Even the highest estimates numbered the Star Luo Empire's units at less than 200. In terms of technology, they were at least a generation behind the Doluo continent. The Do Spirit Empire had 100 fighter planes at most. The state of their technology was worse than the Star Luo Empire. Tang Wulin had done some research with the high-ranking officials in the Tang sect and Shrek Academy before. If a war did break out, the Federation's first move would be to annihilate the Star Luo and Do Spirit Empire's aerial forces to gain control of the skies. Although mechas could also fly, their speed was much slower than a Soul fighter aircraft, unless it was a black mecha. A mecha would also consume more energy than a fighter aircraft. Currently, Soul fighter aircraft technology was developing at a fast pace. It was even starting to incorporate some outer space technology which was still experimental. Compared to mechas, the cost of building fighter aircraft was expensive. However, it had many more possibilities. After all, it was impossible for a mecha to go into space, at least not with the technology available at the time. That feat was only possible for divine mechas. Other than the mecha brigade, the Tang sect also sent fighter aircraft to escort them. They were all products of the latest technology. However, they were not used to battle. Their function was a means of escape for Tang Wulin and the others if and when things went out of control. They had considered all possible outcomes. Yushue, do you have time? We'll have a stroll at the beach. Sure. Tang Wulin did not wake the others, leaving the hotel with Long Yushue silently. They hailed a taxi and went toward the seaside. Although it had been 3 months, they were still not done making of their 3-word battle armor. The higher the battle armor's rank, the more difficult it was to design and inscribe the Soul circuit. Currently, the Shrek 7 monsters were in the awkward situation of not having battle armors to use. All the metals for the mechas had completed soul forging. Hence, it could be said that with every battle armor piece that Yuan and Yehui and Yi Xinglan made, the strength of their team could be increased by a notch. When it came to 3-word battle armor, the process was not solely reliant on one's own strength. It also had a lot to do with one's luck. It was not easy to accomplish it perfectly. This was especially true when Tang Wulin had forged almost all the metals they had to make the 3-word battle armor using the most extreme methods. This had made the making of the 3-word battle armor very difficult. Yuan and Yehui and Yi Xinglan were already giving it their all. However, if they wanted to complete everyone's 3-word battle armor, it would take some time. Tang Wulin lowered the window slightly and took in the sea breeze with its fishy and tangy smell. He felt a rare sensation of relaxation. His gaze seemed unfocused on anything outside the window. For Tang Wulin, it was rare to have time to simply be. He had been away from home for so long that the concept of having one seemed distant to him now. However, when the familiar aroma filled his nostrils, it still gave him the feeling of being in a dream. Tang Wulin suddenly felt that the happiest moment for him was not in his everyday improvement, but it was actually the days when he was free of worries with his parents and Enea. Even though those memories of his were fading now, every time he reminisced about it, he would still be filled with happiness. He would look for his parents and Enea no matter what. Gu had Enea's appearance and even changed her name to Gu Yuana. He had been avoiding this all the while. However, avoiding it was not a solution. Tang Wulin knew in the depths of his heart that Enea's disappearance must have been connected to Gu. When he returned from his mission to the 2 empires, he was sure that his strength would have reached a new level again. When that time came, he would ask Gu Yuana about this no matter what. He would ask her where Enea was and ask her about. He heaved a long sigh. Tang Wulin's gaze started becoming lost. Every time he thought about Gu Yuana, he could not calm his heart. Long Yushue sat beside Tang Wulin. He was looking outside the window, but her eyes were on him. His eyelashes were really long. Even Long Yushue, as a woman, was jealous of them. His eyes were too beautiful, especially when he was simply gazing dreamily. His face was so gentle that it broke her heart. Gradually, he appeared gloomier. Maybe what the other saw was his outstanding qualities, formidable power, and immense natural talents, and perhaps it was because she had been paying him too much attention, but Long Yushue saw many things about him which the others did not. He's shouldering too much. Something must have happened between him and his girlfriend. Otherwise, why isn't she here beside him, after so long? He's such a good man, so why is his girlfriend unwilling to stay by his side? Tang Wulin was like a mystery and a trap to her. She clearly knew that the closer she got to him, the harder it would be for her to extract herself from this. However, Long Yushue could not help but be attracted to him. It's unfortunate being with a man like this, but I think that knowing him is one of the most interesting things that has happened to me. Long Yushue knew that she had never regretted liking this man beside her. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.